Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation screening of Small Town Crime. What did you think of the movie? It sure is fun to do a panel and a Q&A with a lively cast, and this one is definitely no exception. So please welcome to the stage Jeremy Ratchford, James Lafferty. Hey, how do you do? Good to see you. Clifton Collins Jr. Octavia Spencer. And John Hawks. John Hawks, ladies and gentlemen. See, like I told you, this is a lively. By the way, this is the best crowd you're ever going to do a Q&A for. SAG-AFTRA Foundation. I mean it. Look at this passionate crowd, energy, enthusiasm. It's infectious. Well, the first question is really, what was it about the script that struck you? And John, let's start with you.
Okay. It begins with Olivia. Really, with Octavia. Forgive me.
I was like, do I correct him?
Olivia is my grandmother, so it's okay.
A little nervous. You can call me Jimmy, I guess. It begins with Octavia in that we'd worked together several times and known each other many years and had never really gotten to have scenes together. And she contacted me and said, I want to remedy that. I'm going to send you this script. I only want to tell you one thing. You and I play brother and sister. And I just found that really intriguing. And then I read the script, and it was one of those things where you begin to read and you fall for it and you just hope that by the time you turn the last page, it hasn't screwed up somehow, and it didn't. It was really something that was interesting to me in that way.
Well, you know, Octavia, you're in addition to being in the film, obviously, you're also an executive producer on the film. Not co-executive producer, executive producer.
Yeah.
So obviously, there was really something that struck you about the screenplay as well. What was it?
Well, the talent behind it. I've known Ian and Eshom Nelms for a long time. I have a really, it's a wealth of riches of creatives, friends, and I remember when they moved to town, and I'm really tough on new people getting into the group. Because, you know, if you're going to be able to write for me one day, you can get into the group. So I was struck by how they were really passionate about working on all of our stuff. I mean, nobody had any money to pay anybody. You just showed up and you did whatever you could do. And they made their first movie. They maxed out their credit cards and made their first movie, and it was amazing. So they've done that like quite a few times. And when they came over and pitched me this idea, they were like, and we thought, you know, like it would be like somebody like John Hawks, and you guys get to be brother and sisters. And I said, okay, well, I want to read that. And when I read the character, it just reminded me of those wonderful character pieces that Clint Eastwood used to do. I grew up watching a lot of Clint Eastwood movies, and I love John. I think he's an amazing actor, and he is.
Well,
it's just not a very good memory, but other than that.
Well, you've worked together before a couple times, but not really.
Right.
So now you really got to share the screen together. And that was one of your a big motivation, like, hey, we actually.
Absolutely, we actually have a few scenes together, and we're not going to like each other that much. So it was, you know, it was great. The characters had conflict, and I mean, how great is Anthony Anderson? See, here's the wonderful thing: when your friends say, "We need some help making our movie, and can you help us get the cast?" I said, "Well, who do you want?" And it was basically by association. I was able to just call Anthony and John, and then they were bringing people on. So it turned into this amazing cast right here that you see.
It is a true ensemble, and that's what's so great about it. And also, what immediately struck me about the film, And what I was able to appreciate as the film progressed, and by the time it got to the end, is for the entire time you're walking a line of rope where you are maintaining a tone that is suspense and mystery, but also heart and a lot of humor from start to finish. It's like a, like a gumshoe private eye kind of movie, but it's like a neo-noir kind of movie as well. So Clifton, what were some of the things that you sort of saw in the film, and it's, the screenplay, but especially in the film, about maintaining that tone?
Maintaining that tone, wow. So much happens when you create a character. But for me, I think I saw so much potential for me to kind of really explore this character, and I knew, first and foremost, you mentioned these two. I'm going to read whatever they're attached to, so that's how I'm like, I really want to do this. I hope I love the script. And then I read this character, because even if I don't love it, I'd probably still do it just to work with these two. That's a true story. Hashtag true story. So for me, it was, I had these ideas of, I haven't really been able to bring this type of character to life in the way that I did. And I sat down and had a Skype session with our two directors. And once I pitched them all my ideas, I started out with asking them if they knew who Iceberg Slim was, and then I moved from there. So then I proposed a bunch of different ideas, and when I realized how collaborative they were, I realized that this is a job I want to do.
It's your fourth time working with the Nelms Brothers?
Third time, I think.
Third. Well,
it's
been a few times.
Yeah, it's been a few times. Yeah.
What is it about the Eshom that you really feel like you got their rhythm, that you got the what they're about?
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of to what Clifton just said. It's their. I mean, I think they create a really safe environment for collaboration and for experimentation. Like you know what's on the page, and it's what they wrote. But at the same time, as an actor, you get this incredible environment where you come to set and they're like, all right, well, what if we threw that away? Like, what do you think about it? What can you bring to it? And how can you make it unique? And how can you make it specific? And I mean, that's the way that they've been since the day I met them. And it seems to be consistent throughout. So I think you're really seeing that come to fruition in a big way with this film, which is, I think all those things are what makes it such a unique film with so much character.
I want to ask about creating the look for orthopedic. I don't even have to go any further, really. that says it all. I mean, the glasses, the long goatee, and everything.
Yeah. Well, I got a call saying, "Read this. They want you to play orthopedic," and he's just described as wearing orthopedic shoes. Stepping on someone's head before he blows it away. And I did Lost on Purpose with these guys, where I played sort of a small town wannabe record producer. One of my big lines, I got some friends in Van Nuys. And then they call for this, and he's an animal. And I talked with Ash, and he said, you got these bottle glasses, and you got a hearing aid. And I was like, okay. And then I showed up on set sort of with this, and he was like, I don't know about that beard. Oh. And I said, you got to understand, this guy has no idea how he's perceived. It's just every job that he professes to have in this movie, he could never have. But it's just this sets his eyes on the prize and won't stop. And we talked about, obviously, at one point I was going to try. I have a friend that has the cochlear implant, and there's whittle things that they say that from a lifetime of not being able to hear, that there's little phrases or just like the W's and R's. And I talked to Ian about this. I said, do you think we could try that? And then it was just, it was kind of too much because of everything else. And then when I got there, Kat, the wardrobe lady, had this, I'm between sizes a lot. So we ended up with a suit that was 3 sizes too big with these American suspenders, American flag suspenders. And I was like, oh, this is fucking gorgeous. Because it's just more room for guns. Yeah, that was, it was, think about this early. There was a pitcher a couple of years ago in the, I'm not a big baseball guy, but he caught a ball behind his back, and they all said, how did you do that? And he kind of said it was really interesting, because I take it as an actor, and especially working with these guys and everyone on this stage, is that this guy's, his thing was, if I practice hard enough, I shouldn't be nervous during game time. And he wasn't. You know, and that's why he had the comfort to be able to just pick the ball up. And he said, I've practiced and practiced and I practiced with my team. We know what we're doing. So in game time, I'm just ready. And everybody on the stage, it was great because everyone showed up to work. We had a small budget. We were in another location, a crazy Salt Lake City, which has got its own vibes. But everybody showed up to work. Everyone's done their job. And then when you get to set and you get Ian and Ash saying, could you do this? And you go, I'll try. You know, if you're comfortable in what you're doing and you've done your practice, you've done your rehearsing, then when you get on set with these guys and these guys, it's just like, let's play. It was a lot of fun.
Well, let's talk about playing. Did you have, because it is low budget, because it is a true indie, did you have time to really rehearse and really like develop your characters and your relationships beyond what was really written, or did you just have to like just dive in?
Oh, yes. I think it was different for all of us. Probably. I had a little time, and one really wonderful thing was that every Sunday we were going to do it every night. After the first day of shooting, Ian and Eshom Nelms, we've never really even properly introduced them, but they wrote and directed this movie. We keep saying Ian and Eshom, they're here.
They're in the back.
They're at the back.
Stand up.
Anyways. Yeah, they're back
shadows.
there.
In the back left.
Anyways, we'll pull them up at the end. But we after the first night of shooting, we went to dinner, the three of us, and it was really great. I think the three of us. Anyway, it was fantastic, and we thought, let's do this every night. And they were trying to direct a movie. We realized, and there was an infant in their group. Ian had a child, and his wife Michelle, and so there was a lot going on. And so we decided every Sunday we would meet up, and what we did was just look at the schedule and take the last scene on Friday and work backwards, just talk through them all. It was a really wonderful luxury. So when we got to set, we were able to save a lot of time and money, I think, because we'd spoken about things a bit in advance. And oftentimes other people, if they were around and were going to be involved in the week, came along too. And we'd have a really nice Sunday afternoon deal, and by Monday we'd feel ready. So,
you know, it always fascinated me when you have co-directors. It's like the Russo brothers, the Farrelly brothers, the Wachowski siblings, so when you have co-directors who are brothers, like, how does that work? I mean, what if they kind of have different ideas?
It's hard to describe, but they have one brain when it comes to the work. So there's never a disagreement like, oh, I thought it should go this way, because, oh, no, I thought it should go that way. Never that. But, of course, I was only there a week, so.
Well, yeah, but these guys have put so much time and so much thought into writing this and to conceiving it in their mind, even though they're very, different human beings in their way, and one might have a strength the other doesn't, and vice versa. You could still play the game of just trying to fuck with them and ask them both the same question on some tiny obscure plot point, and they would always have the same answer. You'd ask them separately, and they'd always have the same answer, so it was good.
And there is a third. There's Michelle as well,
Indeed.
and that's Ian's wife. And one of my, she is integral to this whole team. One of my favorite days, it was the Cadillac days. We've got Ian and his wife Michelle in the black truck driving over hill and dale, doing the stunt driving. And he and I are firing from behind. And then Ash is actually in the lead truck. Now they've got the camera back on us. and the eyebrow of the camera falls down, and Ash, our director, is climbing out the pocket window in the back of a pickup truck to smash the eyebrow back up because we're doing all this. And I was like, these guys work hard. There's no messing around. And again, Michelle is the
Also
third.
in the film, she
Yeah.
plays. Oh God, who
She
did
married
play?
Greg, much to my dismay. Tina.
You know, John, I want to ask Mike Kendall. Okay, here's this guy. He's like he says at the end of the film. No spoiler. You just saw it. You know, kind of a fuck up, but he's a lovable fuck up. You know, he's looking for redemption, but you know, not really. Just like if it happens, great. Like, you know, you like that scene when he's like interviewing for the job, and you know, she goes, "I'm going to hire you," and he goes, "Okay, wait," and you're like, "No." Don't say it. It's like, what a challenge is sort of to play a character with all these flaws, but that you still you love the guy you're rooting for.
I think it's a lot easier in a great way. I've been lucky on stage and screen to play a lot of underdogs, a lot of people who the odds are against them. They have a problem that they're completely ill-equipped to solve, but instead of curling into a ball, they just blithely just keep going forward. I always try to invent take words from the script and try to distill the character and the story down to the tiniest, smallest amount of words I can use. So for Mike, when the lovely Robert Forster, Steve Yandel says, "Can you find this guy, Mike? Can you find him?" And Mike goes, "I can." I mean, he has no wherewithal to say that, but his thing is just to say, "I'll do it," and then try to figure it out later. So I can and I will work two, I think, really great phrases for me as far as approaching Mike.
Where did you shoot this movie? Like, what small town did you shoot this in?
Where were we?
Salt Lake City.
Yeah, but outside of
Even the
occasionally
construction sites are clean. Very clean.
And how fast was the shoot in terms of principal photography?
You guys were. I had. Yeah, 31. 35. Yeah,
5.
because I was filming Hidden Figures while they were on filming this production. So I came the very last week of production and these guys did already.
How do you shift, by the way, from Hidden Figures to this? Like, how did you do that?
Oh, it was easy. Because you know what? I play all of these women from other time periods with problems that, well, now I guess I do have them again, but so it was great to. Sorry, I was thinking out loud, and I realized I kind of was about to make a mistake. But it was actually wonderful to be able to play a contemporary woman and wear, a wig that kind of resembles me.
Were you able to shoot? Did you wind up shooting like everything that was actually scripted, or were you able to, just sort of like improvise and go off and just riff on each other? Clifton, I feel like you have a great answer for that.
Oh man, this is a loaded question. Didn't I ask for permission? This is to the brothers for permission to like be taken off the leash because I wanted to go to Watts or some shit. I sat down with one of my old Crip friends and kind of went through some history of ours, and because I was a pimp, not in my past before acting, but so I sat down with the homeboy of mine that's been friends with myself since 15, and we went through all the dialogue, just the different scenarios, and like I was mentioning Iceberg Slim earlier, and thankfully, the brothers supported my creative vision. They got what I was saying. They never asked me what some of like the heavier hood words were. So at one point, I thought they were upset with me, or they were going to loop me or cut me out. And I was like, dude, I said, I wasn't. Like, dude, you're great. I'm like, I am? I thought maybe I suck because I ain't heard from you guys. You get a phone call, hey, you got a loop, or it was pretty good, or whatever, got reshoots. And then I was like, well, how did you even understand what the hell I was saying? Like, we didn't, but we loved it so much, it's fucking cool. I was like, I'll go with that. So I was very lucky to have, I can't say enough. That's the kind of support you want on any film.
That's great. John, what was it that made you want to become an actor? Was it a movie? Was it an actor or an actress or a performance? Something that struck you?
I quit wrestling. It was a long story. It's what I did from 4 years old till high school, and in junior high I was one of the best at the country, and a year or two later I was not very good anymore, not very interested, and a new coach came who was a dick, and there was one teacher who told every student that came through his class that they should try out for the play. I'm from a little town. We did our plays in the gymnasium. People could come back the next day and still hear the echo of the play if they wanted to. It was great. He took me aside and said, "You're a really great writer, and you're an interesting combination of introverted some days and the class clown other days." I think he was trying to say you might just be screwed up enough for a life in show business. I'm not sure. And so I just had the idea early on to avoid the straight world then, and hitchhiked thousands of miles and learned a lot about acting that way, and never much studied, but was in a theater company for 10 years, and that brought me to here eventually.
Not the answer I was expecting.
You're a wrestler? We got to do something
But
with
it's a good
that.
one. How about you, Octavia?
Well, Ian, who's one of the two writers, is an actual real wrestler. He had a scholarship at one of the better schools for wrestling, and I'm sure other things too, in the country, Cal Bakersfield. But Ian's a real wrestler. Look at his ears.
Ooh.
How about you, Octavia?
Beautiful.
Wanting to be an actor? I just remember watching television and loving all of the shows from an early age. And then I remember watching the Oscars and everybody was all dressed up and beautiful. And I just, I wanted to be dressed up and wanted to go there one day. So, but I always admired the fact that people could pretend to be other people and it was okay. And so I just, I wanted to be a producer, believe it or not. And I started acting and I got to produce by way of acting, but I love them both. So
you got to go. A couple times.
A few times, yeah.
Clifton, I gotta know, what made you want to become an actor?
I'm a fourth generation entertainer. My grandfather was Pedro Gonzalez, who was a contract player for John Wayne. So he got me tap dancing at the age of 7, and then from that point forward, I think when I was 17, I ran away from home so I could just not have to deal with my mom's shit.
Don't we all?
And I knew I could be an actor then. So when I told her I was dropping out of college to become an actor, that was kind of just it. That was I made a decision. My grandfather was always like, out of 9 grandkids, nobody followed in his footsteps, and so I thought, well, shit, maybe I can. And he was like, hell yeah, you can. I just needed that one voice, the one guy to believe in me, because my mom didn't. My mom said I couldn't do it. She said I'd starve to death. Don't call me when you need some money. My aunt and uncle laughed in my face. So it's like the people that you look up to and that you hope would have your back in that moment didn't really have my back, even though they said I could always do whatever I wanted if I put my mind to it, except acting. Astronaut, scientist, doctor, but not an actor. I was like, ooh, that's what I want to do. So I grew up around it,
James, how about you?
Man, I don't know how to follow that. No, I mean, oddly, in a similar but much different way, I kind of grew up in it as well, but I was doing like, it's going to sound so silly now, but like 6 years old, like an extra on 90210 or like Baywatch. And like, I just always was on sets as a kid and fell in love with it that way and always wanted to stay on sets in any capacity. And so yeah, once I was sort of able to decide for myself that I wanted to audition for acting roles, which was like 10 years old, around the time I saw Jurassic Park. I just decided that was it, man. I'm in.
I hate him. Jurassic Park came out when you were 10.
We're done.
We were watching the original King Kong.
Yeah. So I never really got out of it.
I gotta hear your story. What made you?
I gotta follow that.
Yeah.
I was in 4th grade, which would probably be 1974, before Jaws.
What is Jaws? What is that?
All right. I'm with you, brother.
And I was the messenger in Rumpelstiltskin, and I was the stand-in for the king. And John Waldo had a temper tantrum one day, and I had to go in as the king. And I loved it. I was in 4th grade, he was in 5th. So I got to be a 5th grader and the king for one day. And I still remember, today I brew, tomorrow I bake, tonight's the queen's child I shall take. She doesn't know that foolish dame, that Rumpelstiltskin is my name. I solve the mystery. I get Rumpelstiltskin's name and I save her as the messenger. But that's when I got bit. I remember it's that addicting sound of the house filling up. You know, it starts off with the murmur and the seat and the crowd slowly builds. I've always wanted. I used to do musical theater and stuff, and I could on a Sunday. I wish I could blast it in my house. Have that 2 hours before a performance where the orchestra comes in and just all the sounds of a theater warming up to do the matinee for the kids. Because I played a lot of bad guys. And when you play bad guys in the matinees for kids, when you get booed, that's the best. That's, you've done your job. Ooh, ah! So I had a lot of fun, and it's that bug. It's that addicting.
It's really fun. Is it really fun to play the bad guy?
Oh God, yeah.
It really is, right?
Are you looking at me?
Yeah.
They're always
The
better
Mexican.
written, generally.
They are fun. You get to do shit that you can't do in real life and not go to jail. Robbing banks, killing people, shooting up, chasing people.
I don't know. I've not gotten to do it yet, but I'm working on it.
I had to say that in the big shootout, this was I had a Fitbit, and we got these AK-47s, and the first time, and I looked at the Fitbit, and my heart rate was 190. Second take, down to 170. Third take, down to 140. I'm getting used to this shit. It was quite fun.
You were 10 for Jurassic Park? Man. like you. Thanks. Over the years, the couple years for you, this is going to be a running joke now. What co-star, producer, director, screenwriter, whoever that you've worked with gave you the best advice? Something that you learned from the most, where you had an epiphany, it was something you took with you every gig you had after that? John, or Octavia.
I'll let the star take it.
Okay, that's me. Sorry. I 2 things really quickly. The first play that I was in, the teacher taught us how to meditate a little bit. I still use that. He said, be seen and heard is your first job on stage. I still remember that. And then there's a guy I worked with in the theater company I was with in Austin, Texas for 10 years. I think probably one of the greatest directors I've ever worked with, who no one will ever know. But he just really taught me to find the life in the scene, to find opposites, to really figure out what the story is, become a bit of a dramaturg, and figure out how you as an actor can serve the story.
How about you, Octavia?
Well, by way of being cut completely out of a movie, it's terrible, actually. I did this movie, and I was all excited, and I had friends like cook dinner. I was given this tape to watch it, and I was all excited. And here's my first scene. Here's my first scene, and we're having dinner, and I wasn't there. And I'm like, I guess the scene didn't work. And here's my second scene. Here's my second scene, and it wasn't in there. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. I only have one more scene. And I'm like, I don't even want to know if I'm in it. So we watched it anyway, and I was cut out. And that's when I realized I needed to go to acting class. But the director was really kind and he left me in so that I can get my residuals. Thank you, SAG. I used to sit by that mailbox and wait for those residual checks. And it was one of those things that taught me, because my mom had always said, whatever job you do, you're going to have to train for it. If you cook French fries at McDonald's, they're going to teach you how to do it. So then I realized, when I had my acting break and a time to kill, that that natural moment was the one natural moment. Everything else I had to learn to do. So I wouldn't say that any specific direction or anything that I was given. It was that heartbreak of not seeing, your work and realizing that I had a lot of work to do to learn how to be an actor. So there you go.
That's a good lesson. How about you, Clifton?
I think a lot of my lessons came, obviously with my grandfather being a song and dance man, there's a lot of philosophies that come with just entertaining, one shape or form or another. And then, just by example of working with actors you look up to and admire, I think my first great mentor is probably, aside from my grandfather, was probably Samuel Jackson, who in 187, I think I had some of my greatest lessons. Yeah. So by virtue of I think there's one reason, again, these two were attached to the script, so I just had to be a part of it. There's so much we take and there's so much we gain, and we're constantly trying to grow and change and be re-inspired and reinvent ourselves, and it's by working with this caliber of actors that happens.
James, how about you?
I think some of the best advice I ever got was, I guess as a film or television actor, it's that you get paid to wait and you work for free. I
got paid for this?
Yeah, I think honestly though, I think if you can go into, because in film and television there's a lot of waiting around, and I think a big part of the challenge is to not let yourself get stale by any means. And I think some actors can fall into that trap a little bit or get cranky because the day wasn't all about them and they had to go home without working. But I think if I think if you come at it from the perspective of once, that time that you get on set, that's the lightning in the bottle. That's what you're there doing it. You would be doing that for free, even if you weren't getting paid, you'd be doing that for free. It's, the waiting around.
Don't give the secret away, honey. We like checks.
Am I supposed to say that at a SAG screening?
The secrets were among friends, I guess, but every time I hear that, I freak out and say, don't tell them.
Oh, I can't win today. Jesus.
Go watch Jurassic Park. I remember taking an acting class. An old mentor of mine, David Rotenberg, came to town, and it was just sitting there listening again. And he asked who would want to go up first, and everyone was so nervous, and so tentative, and no one wanted. And I studied clown for many years, and the teacher was always saying that, you got to drag a clown off stage, because on stage that's where you're alive, and every mistake is a gift, and it changes the performance. So why not go up there? And it changed every kind of attitude I had, because when I looked at these people in the class that were all nervous, it's like, get up there. What the fuck is the worst thing that can happen? You're in class. You're with friends, you're with other students and if you fuck up in front of people that are going to fuck up the same. Don't be nervous, just go out there and try. I guess it's the same thing I have with I got 3 boys, and it says, just try, give me a fucking try, don't say you can't. And it's that same thing in the acting classes. I remember hearing Scorsese saying too that he if you notice in his early work, he never moves. In Taxi, he's in the back of he never moves. And he was working with Redford, and they said, you're going to walk down here? And he goes, no, not. Because he can't understand how an actor can even walk on camera. And he said, so when I ask an actor to do something, he says, it's me that takes the hit, not the actor, because we're there to play and have fun. And just, you got to drag me off that fucking stage. Let's go have fun.
That actually leads into my last question, which is, for the actors in the room, what's the being in the trenches, really just paying the dues? What's the advice you would like to give, John?
Do one thing for your career every day. I feel like you're ahead of the game. The problem is, I think for us is that a a dancer dances, and a painter paints, and a writer writes, and an actor needs to act somehow every day if they can. Whether it's to get together with friends and read, or it's to try to practice cold reading with a newspaper, not staring at it, but being able to move your eyes up and down and still look in front of you. I think also to get down or get up after you get knocked down, because everyone gets knocked down here, but it's the ones who just get up and dust themselves off and take another step and lay another brick in the road and just try to keep moving that do well. And finally, if there's anything else you want to do it. There's so much else that's wonderful in this creative world, but if this is what you want to do, be happy you found something, and just work really hard. We need good stories.
I would say for me, it is about your tribe. I mean, Ian and Eshom, I can't tell you how many times we worked together for free on Melissa McCarthy's stuff before she was Melissa McCarthy to you guys, and our friend Tate. I mean, we constantly did stuff for free, and so when someone else gets their break, they remember the people who worked for free. So really solidify, putting in your free hours without complaining, because that'll get you into trouble sometimes. But it really is about your tribe. It's not a solitary journey. You actually need that support, especially when there's a lull, because it can get to you. And so the reason why you continue to work on people's films that they are producing on their phones and using their credit cards to pay for is because it keeps you busy, and it keeps you from getting rusty, and it keeps you honing your craft, but it also keeps you in the conversation. So it is hard, and the game has changed so much since I first moved out here, but it doesn't mean that your big break won't happen tomorrow. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't, because if something pound black woman from Alabama, could make it in Hollywood, when I was told that it was for what did they I can't remember, like, not beautiful, but yeah, beautiful people. Hollywood's for beautiful people, honey. Don't do that to yourself. And so if I can do it, you certainly can.
Ladies and gentlemen, Small Town Crime premieres on Directv on December 21st. I know, yeah, it'll be here before you know it. And then it premieres in theaters and video on demand on January 19th, 2018. That'll be here before you know it. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you all.
Ian and Eshom.
Small Town Crime.
Ian and Eshom.
Thank you all for coming tonight.
And our
giving us
DOP,
your
Johnny Durango.
Ian Nelms. Writer-director Ian Nelms. Writer-director Eshom Nelms.